Middle East's on fire.
Yeah.
We probably talk about that a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
Fucking Middle East.
Yeah, well, obviously there's Gaza, but there's also a lot of hot spots popping off.
Yeah. There's a shit ton of hot spots going on right now, and it's all down to Iran. I think we've talked about this once or twice before, and I think I've been accused of promoting regime change, which I'm not. I'm saying, well, okay, I am, as long as, but it should happen inside, right? From within. And you'd like to think that one day, and I'm sure that every administration in the U.S. for decades now has been imagining that it would happen, there'd be a popular uprising that would actually change the regime. And then you might actually get something that could resemble long-term peace. But right now, all this crap that's happening related to Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, Islamic Jihad, militias in Iraq and Syria, it's all down to Iran, right? And just over the past, God damn it, over the past 4 days, this past weekend, Hezbollah and Israel had the largest exchange of fire that they've had in ages, right? And you have to go back to actual war between the two. And I will say, this is the amazing thing. And this is why I think people always say, well, how come Iran hasn't retaliated for the death of Ismail Haniyeh when they took him out in Tehran? And part of me thinks that the reason they haven't is because that operation to take out Haniyeh in Tehran, he was in a safe house on an IRGC compound in Tehran, right? So you would imagine it's a pretty secure place, right? It's pretty buttoned up, and it's a safe house that Haniyeh had been to in the past on a handful of occasions. So the idea that Mossad and other elements of Israeli intelligence could develop assets in Tehran within the IRGC that allowed them to carry out that operation, if they did, I'm not saying they did, but if they did, right, is remarkable. And it shows the depth of their abilities in terms of identifying targets for possible recruitment and then working those targets and then recruiting them and then tasking them. You had to, inside a safe house in an IRGC guarded compound in Tehran, they had to have assets who were willing to walk in there with explosive devices, because there's more than one, and put them in there. Those folks, got off the X. They got out of country, you would think. And they had to have a trigger there. They still had to have an asset who could say, go or no go, because Haniyeh now is back in the safe house at, midnight or 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. And so it's time to, cross the red wire with the green wire. And that's, amazing. And so I think in part that has completely, freaked out. Maybe it sounds, how old am I? Freaked out. They're so freaked out. The Iranian leadership and the IRGC, they don't know what the depth of that penetration is by Mossad and others. And so the idea that, this is happening, and I guess the point there is, then you look at what they did to the Hezbollah commander, Fuad Shukr, in Beirut. And getting him to move, he was in a building, multi-story building, and they wanted him to move up to his residence, which was on the top floor. And he was in his office, which was, I think, the second floor of that building. And they were able to orchestrate a call to get him to go up to the top deck so he could be an easier target, and they could minimize casualties, and took him out. Right? So now you've got that ability. You've got that sort of thing going on.
How did they do that?
Well, you have to have assets. You have to recruit people who are in a position to be able to do that, who have access, who can tell you things, who can identify something as simple as his routine. He typically goes upstairs to the top deck at 7 o'clock or whatever. Or you have to have someone who's willing and has got access to make that call to get him to go upstairs.
And
right?
How'd they get him when he went upstairs?
Drone strike, and drones have completely changed the game, everything. But then this massive barrage that took place over the weekend between Hezbollah and Israel. Amazingly, the leader of Hezbollah, a fellow named Nasrallah, he has said, in the wake of that, he's talked about their attack. And he said that the timing of it was like a quarter after 5 in the morning. 5:15 in the morning, we're going to launch this barrage. At 4:55 in the morning, Israel sends about 100 jets over the border to attack launch sites, right? So once again, they had this intelligence, this advanced knowledge, right? So I think that and a variety of other hits that they've been able to accomplish, Mohammed Deif and some of these other characters, I think that the Iranian regime and the IRGC, they're just, right now, there's a level of paranoia. It's like the old IRA days. The IRA was worried about infiltration, back in the Troubles. And it created a lot of infighting, right? It created a lot of disappearances. And you're getting that, too. After that Haniyeh hit in Tehran, a number of IRGC people were interrogated about, they were trying to figure out where's the leaks here. Mm-hmm. And that just leads to an ever-widening circle of interrogations and disappearances. So, and that infighting, I'm not saying it's bad. It's like getting a cartel to infight, right? Mm-hmm. Start killing each other. Anyway, so that's a one thing that I'm thinking, because people are always asking how come Iran hasn't retaliated for the Haniyeh hit yet,
right?
And part of it is also, I think they're worried about legitimately getting into a direct conflict with Israel. They understand that the U.S., regardless of where the Biden administration may be and how less they would like not to be in that conflict, they're going to have to be in the conflict. And so Iran can't win that, and so I think they're worried about that as well. So there's reasons behind it, but there's a lot going on. Israel's just launched a massive operation in West Bank. So they're up in the northern portion of the West Bank going after militants up there. And Hamas and Islamic Jihad and some others operate in the West Bank, even though the Palestinian Authority runs it. So they're up north. They've just moved in overnight, basically. And they're going after terrorist elements up there. But Iran has been shoving weapons into the West Bank. Because what they want to do is, if you think about where Israel is, you think about Gaza's on the west side, Hezbollah's up north, West Bank's over on the east. They want to create more of a front on the east side, right? And then they basically got them, engulfed, right? And so they want to. They've been funneling weapons and resources into the West Bank for several years. They've got smuggling routes going through Lebanon, going through Syria, going through Jordan. So I guess my point being, all this shit is down to the Iranian regime and the IRGC. So when people talk about, we got to get a ceasefire, we got to work for a lasting peace, unless you get rid of those guys, there's no lasting peace.
No.